You don't need to yell, block, or seek revenge. The most powerful move you can make is none at all. Yes, you heard that right. Because sometimes staying calm hurts more than reacting in anger. And in this video, you'll learn why well-placed silence might be your greatest weapon when someone hurts you. You'll discover how to use stoicism to flip the script without raising your voice. By mastering your emotions, owning your reactions, and showing the kind of mental strength no one expects from someone who's been hurt. Have you ever wondered why someone hurts you and still expects you to chase them? Or worse, expects you to explode so they can blame you? Enough of that. What you're about to learn is how to deal with those who hurt you with the elegance of someone who knows their worth. This isn't pride, it's inner peace. And when you embrace that, even your presence begins to change. This video isn't for people who want revenge, it's for those who want freedom. Here, you'll discover how to stop overreacting, how to control your anger, how to stay calm under pressure, and most importantly, how to turn time and silence into invisible tools of power. I'll show you real examples, vivid metaphors, and powerful phrases that become emotional shields. In the end, you'll understand that being calm doesn't make you weak. It makes you untouchable. So if you've ever felt used, ignored, or betrayed, stay with me until the end. This video was made for you. Subscribe now, leave a like, and share this with someone who also needs to learn how to protect themselves without losing themselves. Because today, you'll walk away stronger than you came in. There are moments when everything inside you screams for a reaction. Anger wants a stage, the ego wants revenge, and the heart just wants to be understood. But this is where the true practitioner of Stoicism stands out, by choosing the opposite. Marcus Aurelius wrote that whoever controls their own reaction has already won the inner battle. Instead of exploding, they observe. Instead of confronting, they withdraw with dignity. It may sound counterintuitive. How can you stay calm when everything in you wants to break down? But it's precisely in that self-restraint that true power lies. Silence in this context isn't passivity. It's mastery of the mind. It's invisible training of self-discipline in action. And there's no greater display of mental strength than choosing not to be shaken. Picture someone who deeply hurt you. That person, deep down, expects your explosion. They're waiting for the angry message, the furious call, the impulsive block. Now imagine the impact of doing absolutely nothing, of acting like it didn't touch you at all. It's a silent humiliation that hurts not with noise, but with absence. The Stoic philosophy teaches us that true value isn't in controlling others, but in not being controlled. Whoever masters their own impulse, masters their destiny. And that's not something you learn overnight. It takes practice, like a muscle you train every day. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." So instead of reacting on impulse, try practicing emotional distancing. When someone hurts you, don't respond right away. Breathe, go for a walk, write down everything you want to say, but don't send it. That pause is a powerful exercise in resilience and stress management. Over time, you'll realize this isn't weakness, it's evolution. The most interesting part? The other person won't understand. The absence of a response leaves them restless, confused, lost in their own game. While they're trying to decode your silence, you're rising in inner peace. And this silent growth is only the beginning of what comes next. There's one kind of response no one sees coming, none at all. When someone hurts you, the reaction they expect is confrontation, drama, or a charged emotional outburst. But when you disappear, when you vanish without a single explanation, the game changes. Silence becomes a mirror, and the other person begins to see themselves, with guilt, doubt, and regret. That's high-level emotional control. That's pure stoicism. In an age of instant, impulsive reactions, disappearing is revolutionary. It's like Seneca taught, don't hand over your soul to those who provoke you. Contrary to what your ego demands, going silent isn't running away, it's strategy. You take the stage away from the manipulator and leave them talking to themselves. And here's the twist. Your absence hits harder than any confrontation ever could. The person who hurt you expects a storm, but instead, they find calm. They expect an attack, but are met with silence. That completely breaks the emotional cycle and leaves them off balance. This is how you stay calm under pressure, by not playing the game they're expecting. You change the rules without warning, and in doing so, you take your power back without ever raising your voice. Want a practical example? Instead of replying to that provocative message, archive it. Go read Meditations by Marcus Aurelius or listen to a podcast about mastering your mind. Not only does this elevate you, it retrains your brain to step out of autopilot and choose with wisdom. You replace impulse with strategy, heat of the moment with mental strength. This posture requires self-discipline, but little by little, you'll realize you're not the one disappearing. It's your ego dissolving. You're not avoiding the other person, you're protecting your peace. That's one of the greatest lessons in personal development. Knowing when to retreat is often the most sophisticated way to move forward. And what does this do to them? It creates a restless void, a lack of control that eats away from the inside. Because no one knows how to deal with silence when they expected a scandal. And that's the moment when a single metaphor can transform everything. Some messages are forgotten within minutes. Others echo for days. Sometimes for life. That's where the power of mental imagery comes in. Instead of over-explaining, let a metaphor do the talking, and it speaks more deeply. When the mind visualizes a powerful scene, the emotional impact doubles. And the surprising part? The simpler the image, the stronger it resonates. Picture this. You walk into a store you always visited, and it's closed. No sign, no notice, no explanation. The immediate feeling is confusion. The brain searches for logic and finds none. That's exactly the kind of emptiness you create when you disappear from someone's life without saying a word. Another example, imagine a movie that ends abruptly in the middle of the plot. The viewer is left stuck, trying to guess the ending. That happens in relationships too. When you walk away silently, no drama, no justification, no long message, the other person enters a mental maze. They seek answers, and your absence becomes something that takes up space. Silence, when well used, becomes presence. These metaphors aren't just creative tools, they're stoic instruments. Epictetus taught that the wise don't need to explain, they demonstrate. They let the impact of their conduct speak louder than 1,000 words. So when someone hurts you, ask yourself, what leaves a deeper mark? An emotional rant, or a silent, mysterious exit? These images create what psychologists call an open loop. The other person replays the scene mentally, trying to understand what happened. And the more they try, the more stuck they get. That's the power of perception, turning your absence into an unforgettable experience, a memory they revisit, not because they want to, but because they can't help it. And while they're stuck replaying the moment, you're already evolving, growing stronger, mastering your mind, and applying ancient wisdom where few dare to. And now the question becomes, how can you turn that silence into a true emotional shield? Silence isn't fear. It's a conscious decision not to waste energy on what doesn't build you up. Stoicism teaches that well-placed silence isn't absence, it's controlled presence. It's the mark of someone who has trained their mind, built self-discipline, and developed true mental strength. It's not about holding back feelings, it's about holding your position. Stoic philosophy was never about repressing emotions, but about choosing what to do with them. Marcus Aurelius faced intense political pressure, yet he wrote to himself, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." That's real emotional control. It's not about pretending it doesn't hurt. It's about choosing how to respond to that pain. And sometimes, the best response is none. Silence, when it comes from someone at peace, becomes unbearable for those who thrive on conflict. It's like muting a game that only works with noise. The person trying to provoke you loses interest when they realize you won't react. This is how to stay calm under pressure, by refusing to play the game. And that alone is already a victory. Let's look at a real-life example. Someone offends you at work, expecting you to lash out. Instead, you just look at them and say, "All right." But internally, you're remembering Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Epictetus. And most importantly, that it's not worth getting upset over someone who adds nothing to your life. Emotional intelligence is knowing what deserves a reaction and what deserves silence. The lack of explanations, justifications, or defenses is often the clearest sign of self-confidence. You don't need to prove anything when you're rooted in your philosophy of life. If you understand that, you learn how to ignore negativity and how to stop overreacting. Silence becomes armor, a shield, wisdom. And this kind of silence, contrary to what people think, screams. It screams balance, maturity, clarity. It screams that you've left the cycle of reaction and entered the cycle of self-mastery. It screams that you don't need an audience to exist, because once you evolve, you find power in what others still don't know how to use: silence. Sometimes what hurts most isn't what was said, but what will never be said. The lack of response creates an echo inside the one who expected a reaction. And that echo is louder than any sharp word. Those who master this technique also master their ego. After all, anger wants to speak, but ancient wisdom whispers, "Stay silent and watch the impact unfold." Phrases like, "My silence is my power," aren't just poetic. They work like mental anchors, reminders that emotional control starts with a closed mouth. When you repeat these affirmations, you begin to internalize the role of the observer. You stop seeking justice in others' words and start finding inner peace in your own decisions. That's stoic wisdom in practice. This kind of repetition transforms the message into a ritual, a space where the listener feels safe to rebuild themselves. With each short phrase, they remember they don't owe explanations to those who don't want to understand. "I become unreachable" isn't arrogance, it's emotional protection. It reminds you that your self-worth isn't up for debate. It's grounded in your mind's command. Want a practical step? Write down your own personal power phrases and stick them on your mirror, fridge, or phone. Make these words into shields. For example, "I don't respond to chaos with more chaos." Or, "My time is too valuable for conflict." These short mantras, when repeated, start reprogramming how you deal with insults and emotional pressure. It's daily resilience training. This aligns perfectly with what the Stoics called soul training. Epictetus said that philosophy isn't in what we say, but in how we live. So while the other person waits for your response and finds none, you're growing stronger within. Instead of reacting, you're evolving. You don't need to raise your voice, just your level. And what's curious is that this lack of response eventually becomes a constant presence in the mind of the one who tried to provoke you. The silence becomes a memory. The lack of explanation becomes discomfort, and what seemed like nothing begins to mean everything. But when that pain begins to shift, it no longer belongs to you. There comes a moment when the pain changes address. At first, it's you who feels it. The disappointment, the abandonment, the hurt. But when you stop feeding the cycle, something shifts. Stoic philosophy teaches that when you stop reacting, you return responsibility to the one who caused the damage. And the most fascinating part is watching that absence begin to eat away at them from the inside. This is the rebound effect of silence. They expected chaos, but you gave them composure. They expected offense, but received indifference. And that sparks a hidden kind of desperation. Suddenly they realize they no longer have power over your emotions. That's the peak of emotional control. Not because you don't feel, but because you choose not to suffer for those who don't deserve your energy. The emptiness left by your silence becomes more disturbing than any confrontation. Without your reaction, the other person's mind starts spinning, inventing stories, seeking answers, feeling doubt. This mental loop acts like a reverse mirror. Now they're the ones wondering what went wrong, what they lost, why you never responded. Silence turns into an unbearable mystery. This happens because humans hate unresolved endings, and by not giving them closure, you become the most memorable chapter. Seneca once said, "The best revenge is to be unlike the one who harmed you." And in this case, your difference isn't in walking away. It's in continuing to grow while they remain stuck in their guilt. Want something practical? Instead of chasing closure, invest in yourself. Go to therapy, read about personal growth, start meditating. Read the Enchiridion by Epictetus and learn not to be shaken by what's out of your control. The focus must shift away from them and back onto your evolution. Because when you rise, they feel it, even in silence. And so what was once your pain becomes their void. What was once suffering becomes a strategic distance. And what was once an open wound becomes a scar of wisdom. But time, that invisible ally, still has more to teach. and it's ready to show its power in the next step. Sometimes what urgency can't fix, time quietly dissolves. While most people rush to resolve, confront, or demand closure, the one who practices stoicism learns to let time do the talking. And it's in that silent space where the greatest disarmament happens. When you stop seeking immediate justice and trust the process, something powerful unfolds. The other person begins to feel deeply. As days pass, absence becomes a constant presence. What used to be daily interaction turns into complete silence, and their mind begins to react. The human brain hates emptiness, so it fills the gap with projections, doubts, and regrets. And the best part? You don't have to do a thing. Just let time work for you, with the patience of a sage. Marcus Aurelius spoke about living in harmony with time, accepting what's beyond our control. That philosophy fits perfectly here. Each day without contact is like a drop of uncertainty in the mind of the one who hurt you. Drop by drop, it becomes a tide. Meanwhile, you grow stronger. There's no more subtle punishment than the awareness that comes too late. Practically speaking, this means being silent and focusing on self-improvement. Take care of your health, change your look, learn something new. Invest in mental strength. Absence isn't just absence, it's preparation. While they feel unsettled, you're training resilience and becoming someone who no longer fits in that old version of the relationship. Time also reveals truths you once refused to see. It shows you that what seemed essential was just emotional attachment, and that's liberating. Because when you learn how to stop overreacting, how to stay calm under pressure, and how to ignore negativity, you stop needing closure. You become it. And if time has been acting on its own until now, imagine what happens when you combine that time with a community of people who are aware, calm, and firmly grounded in their purpose. That's what comes in the next step, where your silence becomes collective strength. Nothing strengthens a choice more than realizing you're not alone in it. When you go silent, when you choose not to react, when you apply stoic principles instead of chasing revenge, sometimes doubt creeps in. Am I the only one doing this? And that's where the power of belonging comes in. Seeing that thousands of others are on the same path creates emotional validation, and that validation reinforces your decision. That's why declaring your strength in the comments isn't just about typing. It's about speaking out loud what you've already been practicing in silence. Phrases like "I owe no one an explanation" or "My silence is my response" act like emotional tattoos. You identify with them, repeat them, share them, and suddenly that behavior becomes part of your identity. You stop being a victim and start being an example. Stoicism has always valued the gathering of virtuous people. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire, yet he still wrote to himself daily to remember who he was. If even he needed to reaffirm his principles, why wouldn't we? When you comment, share, and engage with this philosophy of life, you don't just strengthen yourself, you uplift those who are just starting the path. This silent community is more powerful than 1,000 loud voices. It's not about exposing others, it's about rebuilding yourself. You connect with people who also chose to stay calm under pressure, to control their anger, to train resilience. And that shared mirror reflects a truth. Calm is contagious. Ego shrinks when awareness grows. If you've made it this far, it's because something inside you resonated. Maybe it was the desire to change, maybe the need to stop suffering over what no longer deserves your energy. Or maybe just the relief of discovering there's another way. Whatever the reason, this journey is no longer just yours. It's ours. And every time you write, read, or share, you strengthen this invisible chain of self-mastery and growth. So comment below, "I choose intelligent silence," or write your own mantra. What matters is marking this moment, stating that from now on, you no longer react as you once did. Because those walking this path know the next step runs even deeper. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to keep learning about Stoic philosophy, emotional intelligence, and mental strength. The next lesson might be exactly what you need to flip another switch in your life. And if you made it this far, you've already proven you're ready for it.